Hola a todos, bienvenidos a esta entrega virtual del premio Desierto de Tabernas 2021. Está conmigo el periodista del diario ¿Qué? Y el blog 35 milímetros, Carlos Portolés. Hola Carlos, ¿cómo estás?
Hola, ¿qué tal, Guillermo? Pues estoy absolutamente emocionado por conocer a Sir Christopher Frayling porque soy un gran fan de su obra.
Carlos, además de ser un magnífico periodista, nos ha sorprendido con un precioso texto sobre nuestro galardonado en La Voz de Galicia. Sir Christopher, thank you for sharing your time with us today. How are you?
I'm fine. I only wish I could be with you in person rather than on Zoom. I would love to be over on the plains of Spain at this moment, but I can't get there, so that's sad.
Yeah, I know it was your plan to be with us in Tabernas to enjoy our festival for the first time, but things got complicated in last minute with COVID, with Brexit, and a really tight agenda. And that didn't help either to get you the award over there in time for this online ceremony, but it shipped days ago and should be there anytime. So before Carlos begins with his questions, I just want to say that it's been a privilege to know you, and that every time I'm around you, I feel lucky and I feel like I'm both learning and having a great time at the same time. So hopefully this interview will help people in the audience understand what I'm talking about. So, Carlos, whenever you're ready.
Well, as someone who's madly in love with the spaghetti western and who considers his favorite movie to be Los Compañeros, well, I'm very, very thrilled and honored to be here with you today, Mr. Frayling. And I speak from the heart when I say that you have done an immense job through all these years to bring people closer to culture and to help those who wanted to know more. And for that, I thank you from the heart.
You're very, very kind. Very, very kind.
And well, as most things start from the beginning, my first question has to be this. Why is Sir Christopher Frayling so interested in spaghetti western, and when did it all start?
Well, it started when I was at college in Cambridge in 1965, 1966. And I remember it very, very well. It was in the summer, and they have a thing in Cambridge called the May Ball, where you dance the night away. And, we were feeling very bleary-eyed in the morning. It was 6 in the morning, and I had a terrible row with my girlfriend. And we had a real row. We were both too tired, and I was feeling really down and so on. So I walked the streets of Cambridge, and at 2:30, I drifted into a cinema which was showing Per un pugno di dollari, a fistful of dollars. I'd read the reviews, all of which were terrible in England, and so I wasn't expecting very much. And it completely blew me away. Partly I was psychologically in just the right mood for it because I needed a lift, and the costumes, the landscape, the music, the youthfulness. Remember that Westerns in the mid-60s were mainly starring very old people, John Wayne, James Stewart. These were people who couldn't get on a horse anymore. They were getting so old. And here was young Clint Eastwood, Jean-Marie Volonté. So I started telling people about this movie. I said, it's great, it's really exciting, you'll love it. And nobody believed me, and it became a bit of a crusade to persuade the world to take these movies more seriously, because the reviewers in England, and a lot of them in America, treated them as ersatz American Westerns. And I said, what's interesting about them is the Italian and Spanish elements. These aren't copy American movies, they're European movies, and that makes them interesting. Look at the landscape. It's very different to New Mexico and the border with Arizona, but it has its own amazing beauty, Look at the costumes, a little bit more larger ponchos and long coats and all this. And the music, which sounded like the Beach Boys, not like, Aaron Copland. It was a Fender Stratocaster guitar. And so it became a crusade. And having spent a lot of time trying to persuade people to take Hammer films seriously, horror movies, I then moved on to spaghetti westerns. I was beginning to specialize in movies that nobody liked. Of course, now, the great irony today, 50, 60 years later, is that Italian Westerns are very fashionable and American Westerns are completely out. So the whole thing has completely reversed. You know, the really hip things, the really fashionable things are the Italian Spanish Westerns of the 60s, and nobody's interested in John Wayne anymore.
I heard once that you proposed, I don't know if you were joking, but you proposed calling American Westerns hamburger Westerns.
Exactly. You know, because everyone started, well, spaghetti Westerns was originally intended as a term of endearment. You know, I love spaghetti. In the mid-60s, we all discovered Italian food in England. And all these shops were opening to sell Italian pasta and pasta sauces. And, you know, these were all new to us in the mid-90s. So when I said spaghetti Westerns, I meant it as they're cheerful, they're cheap, they're delicious, and they're rather fashionable, you know. But people didn't see it like that. They see it as a put down. You know, I've been to Italian conferences where everyone, you were the man who popularized the phrase spaghetti Westerns. It's an insult to Italian filmmakers. I didn't mean that, but that's what it's come. It's become a put down. But all I meant was these are Italian and maybe paella Westerns, Spanish and Italian. Because of course, the other interesting thing is people talk about them as Italian Westerns, but they were nearly all Italian-Spanish Westerns. They were co-productions with a Spanish producer, Spanish actors, Spanish locations, and all sorts of Spanish influences. So that's been rather written out of the story, I think. You know, they should be spaghetti slash paella Westerns, you know. I did an interview with Ennio Morricone on his 80th birthday. And I spoke to his interpreter just before the interview. And she said, I have one rule for this interview. Do not mention the phrase spaghetti Westerns. And I said, why? He said, because he'll walk out of the room. He hates it. And he keeps saying, I'm not a restaurant, I'm a composer, right? You don't call them, you can call them Italian, Western all'Italiana, or you can call them Euro Westerns, but you will not. So don't mention the spaghetti. Anyway, I learned my lesson. He saw it as an insult, but I don't mean that. I think I love spaghetti, you know. And now everyone loves these movies, which is great. I'm thrilled that they always get 5 stars in the ratings when they're, you know, released again or shown on television. And I think the battle is won, you know.
I wanted to also ask you, when was the first time that you actually spoke to Leone? What was the first thing that he told you? And how was it? How was that encounter, even if it was not in person?
Right. I did a book in the late 1970s called Spaghetti, I'm afraid to say, Spaghetti Westerns. Don't tell Ennio Morricone. And in 1981, I went to Rome and I presented a copy to Leone. And he phoned me up subsequently with an interpreter and said that his brother-in-law, Fulvio Morcella, who was also the producer of most of Leone's famous films, had read the entire book to him while he sat there. And he said, it took an Englishman to take my film seriously. And I loved that line. I was so thrilled that he said that. But I mean, what a long-suffering guy to listen. This is about 100,000 words, this book. And it was read to him while he sat there by Fulvio, because he wasn't a reader himself, I don't think. And so then when he came to London to trying to raise money for Once Upon a Chair in a Volta in America, he contacted me at the Royal College of Art where I was teaching. And I met him in a hotel in London, and that's where it began, really. And after a time, I thought, I started taking a tape recorder. And I thought, I think I'm going to do a biography, because I wasn't planning to do a biography of Leone. I was planning to do a very detailed study of his films. But then as he started talking, and I got to know the family, Carla, the wife, Raffaella, the daughter, and they welcomed me into the family and I got to know them. I thought, yeah, why hasn't someone, it is extraordinary. You know, there's 3 biographies of Pasolini, there's 3 biographies of Visconti, there's 2 biographies of Bertolucci, there's endless biographies of Rossellini. There is nothing in the Italian or in the English language about Leone. So I thought, right, and that's when I started writing the biography, which came out in 2000, 2001. It took me a very long time. But what was great was that all the people who were involved in those movies were still around. You know, a lot have died. Carlos Simi, the great production designer and costume designer, no longer with us. You know, Luciano Vincenzoni, the scriptwriter For a Few Dollars More, lovely man from Venice, no longer with us. Leone, of course, no longer with us. And as from last year, Morricone, no longer with us. So those 1960s people are going. That generation is going. I was very lucky in the 1980s and 90s. They were still there. I could go and talk to them and get all these firsthand accounts of what was going on. And I could visit Almeria. There are two aspects of these films that are still very, very underrated. One of them is the contribution of the production designer, Carlos Simi, who also designed the costumes, a very rare combination, costumes and sets designed by Carlos Simi. And secondly, the landscape. Everyone writes about the director, the screenwriters, the actors, and they don't write about the production design, because the design of these movies is part of their excitement, I think. So when I went to visit for the first time of 6 to Almeria in the 1970s to start, late 1970s, and then I went in the 1980s, where it had developed a bit. You know, the Leone Ranch and Mini Hollywood had developed a bit. But people, you know, you go to Mini Hollywood, which is an extraordinary experience, and there's nothing really to tell you that Carlos Simi designed it. You know, it's his El Paso from For a Few Dollars More. Okay, they've added bits at the side, but there it is with the Sierra in the background, this main street with this wonderful Sierra in the background. It's Carlos Simi. It was his vision of a Wild West main street, you know, is Mini Hollywood. But the first time I went, I got so excited. You know, I went to walked down the street of El Paso at Mini Hollywood, went to Rancho Leone and went through the door of Sweetwater, went up to Torrillas and went into the church where Indio gave his sermon, went to Los Albaricoch and crunched my way down the main street like Eastwood had, off to the dunes of Cabo de Gata, and I reenacted wandering through the desert, because basically it's Europe's only desert, as far as I know, is Cabo de Gata. And you know, I pretended to be Clint Eastwood walking along a sand dune while Morricone music plays this sort of, and I was living these locations. And I think, you know, the sense of place was very, very important to these films. You know, that yes, the script would say, you know, they go into the desert. But when you actually get to the desert and see the topography and the particular qualities of that desert, then I think, you know, this inspired them a lot while they were making the movie. Now, I think the landscape of Almeria is a very underrated aspect of the importance and the distinctiveness of these films, which is one reason why I'm so thrilled to have got this award. It's a very, very, very nice thing to receive, and it kind of feels appropriate. I've been going on about this thing for so long that it's jolly nice that somebody's noticed.
Will we be seeing you in Tabernas anytime soon? Maybe next year?
Yes, I want to come next year. And just try and stop me. I'd love to join the festival and give a talk maybe, and I don't know, anything you want.
Okay, so now I think it's time to show you this little video that we've prepared. Let's take a look.
En el 40 aniversario de la publicación de su libro Spaghetti Western, Cowboys y Europeos, el Almería Western Film Festival reconoce la trayectoria del escritor, divulgador y crítico de cine Sir Christopher Frayling. Frayling es uno de los pioneros en la divulgación del spaghetti western como género a reivindicar y del espacio cinematográfico de Almería como escenario natural de cine. De hecho, hasta en 6 ocasiones ha visitado nuestra tierra para sus estudios e investigaciones. El escritor londinense es un exponente inigualable de erudición artística. Su amistad con Sergio Leone le llevó a publicar en el año 2000 su celebrada biografía Algo que ver con la muerte, y en 2019 culminó varios años de estudio e investigación sobre el film hasta que llegó su hora, con la publicación del libro Shooting a Masterpiece, una auténtica Biblia para los fans de la película de Leone. Frayling fue rector del prestigioso Royal College of Arts de Londres durante 13 años, y en 2001 la mismísima reina Isabel II le nombró caballero por su contribución a la divulgación del arte y el diseño. Su rostro es conocido por el gran público gracias a su colaboración en decenas de documentales y audiocomentarios de películas western. Por todo ello, es un auténtico honor para el Almería Western Film Festival hacer entrega del premio Desierto de Tabernas 2021 a Sir Christopher Frayling.
Well, that was a very flattering video. I feel very privileged and honored to have been given this award, the Desierto de Tabernas. I've had lots of academic awards in my life. I even got a knighthood from Her Majesty the Queen at Buckingham Palace, but I have never had an award before for my services to Italian and Spanish Westerns. So it means a great deal to me because, I've done several books. In fact, I'm planning another one at the moment as a follow-up to them. And so it feels a very appropriate award. And as I say, I'm privileged and honored. And I hope you have a great party with the festival surrounding it. And I'm only sorry I can't be with you. I'm going to miss the movies. I'm going to miss the drink. I'm going to miss the food. I'm going to miss the company. But never mind, I will be with you in spirit. And thank you very, very much.